Let me tell you about my grandfather. His name was Roy Holloway, born in 1946. He built cabinets for 40 years out of a one-room shop on 8th Street in Traverse City. The shop smelled like cedar and shellac, and the burnt coffee in a percolator older than I was. He wore a leather apron with a horseshoe-shaped burn on the right side from a piece of walnut that had popped off his lathe at 300 degrees. He never replaced it. He said the burn meant the apron was working. When I was 8, my mother started dropping me off at his shop in the afternoons. My sister, who was 5, was already in 3 enrichment programs. I was not in any of them. My grandfather would meet my mother at the door, take my backpack off my shoulders, and say we have work to do. Never to my mother. Always to me. He gave me pine and 120 grit sandpaper. Sandpaper goes with the grain, sweetie, he said. Always with the grain. People are the same. I sanded pine for the next decade. The summer my grandmother died, Marlene Holloway, June of 2015, a stroke at the kitchen sink. My mother decided we should move in to help. My father didn't argue. He had just been transferred to a new plant and we'd sold our small ranch in Acme Township for $182,000. My grandfather had a 4-bedroom house he had built with his own hands in 1971. He cleared out his office for me and my sister to share. He moved his workbench into the corner. I was 15. The first night I heard my mother in the hallway telling my father, "Just hang in there. He's 70. Maybe 5 more years." I knew, even at 15, that you don't say that kind of thing about your father. I rolled onto my side. When I got up to use the bathroom an hour later, my grandfather was standing in the hallway in his gray flannel pajamas with a glass of water in his hand. He had heard it first. He had been standing there longer than I had been awake. He didn't say anything. He stepped aside so I could pass. But the next morning he asked me to come to the shop on Sundays. I went every Sunday from that summer until the week before he died. In May of 2016, my mother slapped me at a Memorial Day barbecue. She had lost a bracelet, a silver thing she'd bought herself, not even valuable, and she announced to 15 guests that I had taken it. When I said, "Mom, I didn't take it," she crossed the patio in 2 strides and slapped me hard enough to leave a hand shape on my face. My sister laughed. My father looked at his shoes. My grandfather walked over from the grill, put his palm between my shoulder blades, and walked me into the kitchen. He filled a dish towel with ice and held it against my cheek himself. Then he said something quietly. "Don't cry in front of her. Save it. Save everything." The next afternoon, he asked me to come to the shop. When I walked in, he was standing at the workbench with a small wooden box in his hands. Walnut. 12 inches long, 8 wide, 5 tall. Dovetailed corners. A thin cherry border on the lid. Burned across the top with the tip of an old soldering iron. For Amber. Holloway 2016. He held it out flat on his palms like he was handing me a sleeping bird. "Don't open this," he said. "Just keep it. Any time. Any reason. Any hour." I kept it at the bottom of my suitcase for the next 9 years and 6 months. I never looked inside. There is one more thing about my grandfather I need to tell you. Every Christmas Eve from the year I was 12 until the year he died, he found a reason to take me to the shop. To help him clean up. To put the year to bed, he called it. Each Christmas Day, sometime between the gifts and the ham, my mother would announce, quietly to a relative or loudly in front of guests, that I had ruined Christmas again. The year I was 8, I dropped a glass ornament. At 13, I left the stove on under the cinnamon water. At 17, I didn't smile right in the photograph. Every year, a different reason. Every year, the same sentence. "You ruin every Christmas." She said it like a weather report. My grandfather spent 13 Christmas Eves keeping me out of the kitchen so she would have one fewer reason. He got sick in September of 2024, pancreatic, fast. He died in October at 78. At the funeral reception, my mother cried harder than anyone. She stood next to the liquor cabinet and accepted condolences with a hand pressed to her chest. She accepted them like she had earned them. While she did, I watched her glance at the bookshelf where my grandfather kept the bourbon and his important papers. She looked at that bookshelf the way a person looks at a door they already have the key to. She was already calculating the inheritance, and she had not even taken her coat off. There is a particular kind of mathematics toxic families do. From the outside, it looks like generosity. A child gets summer camp. A child gets braces. A child gets the bigger bedroom because she is artistic. From the inside, the math is simpler. There is one child for whom money is allocated, and there is one child whose existence is a deduction. My sister went to Cherryland Academy, the local private school, from 6th grade through 12th. Tuition was $24,000 a year. She did not work a summer job. She went because my mother had decided, when Kelsey was 8, that Kelsey had the spark. I went to public school. When I asked at 17 whether there might be money for college, my mother folded her hands and said in a voice she'd practiced, "Honey, college isn't your thing. You're not academic. Maybe community college, and only if you can work for it." I worked for it. 3 years at the Lakeshore Tavern, an associate degree in horticulture from Northwestern Michigan College. $11,200 in student loans, mine. I stopped asking for things